Hey guys, good evening. We're going to have a little video here on solder sleeves and how to use them. Some of you guys have probably seen them, some of you haven't. There's a lot of new people that are coming into the hobby, and these things to me are literally the greatest thing since sliced bread. You can get them off Amazon, you can get them off Alibaba or any one of the other little Chinese order sites. They're about probably 10-12 bucks for 50 off from Amazon. You get them in a handy little case like this. It's got several different sizes, anywhere from the smaller 24, 26 gauge all the way up to 10 to 12 gauge. Real handy. As you can see, I've used quite a few of these out. Or you can just buy a bag of the red ones. The reds are the ones that you're going to use the most. Or you can buy little boxes of just the red ones. This is another one off Amazon. Whole lot of little red solder sleeves. Let's go over the anatomy of a solder sleeve real quick. So let me actually grab one of the blue or the yellows here so you can get a bigger view of them. So this is what they look like up close. It's basically just a heat shrink tube. The colored bands are a hot melt adhesive with a low melt temp solder band in between. Using these things is easy peasy. I'm going to use the red one. Again, these are the most common ones that you're going to use. There's a couple of ways you can do this. Everybody has their own preferred way. You can slide it over your wire, meet it in the middle right here with the solder, slide the other side in to where both of the ends meet. Get that close up to the camera, see if you can see that. Both of the ends meet and overlap underneath the solder, and then just hit it with a heat gun or a little torch. I prefer using the heat gun. I've got a Wagner Furno 750 digital heat gun. I found that the best temp for me is about 710 degrees. That's hot enough to melt that solder band fast and shrink it and melt the adhesive, but not hot enough to melt the insulation on the wires while you're doing it. Using a torch, you'd have to be a little bit more careful, or a cigarette lighter. If you're going to do an in-the-field repair, it's definitely possible. I just prefer the heat gun and use the little heat shrink adapter, so you're kind of swirling that heat around the end. Lets it get done a whole lot faster. The other way of joining these, rather than just slipping it under, is some people will take them and do like a Western Union. Take it and twist the wires over. Kind of lock them together. Gives them a little bit more of a strain relief. But I found that using these solder sleeves with that heat shrink on it, and then that adhesive, they're not going anywhere. This one's a little too small for this gauge of wire, but you can kind of get the idea. Twist them together, slide it over so that solder band's in the middle, and then hit it with a heat gun or a little torch. So I've got one already put together back here on my little alligator clips, and I'm going to hit it with a heat gun for you. It's going to be a little noisy, so I'm going to turn it on here. It starts out at 650. Take it up to 710. I won't let it get all the way hot because it'll just take too daggum long. And I'm going to hit it. I don't know if you'll be able to actually see it shrink. Just do it like that. And let that heat go straight on it. And you see the wires. You should be able to see those starting to shrink up. The solder starting to melt just a little bit. You see that red bead on the left, how it kind of flattened out and got a little wider. It's that hot melt adhesive melting and doing its thing for us. Got everything melted. We'll turn this guy off, set him up out of the way. It'll run for a few minutes while it cools off. Let's take this out. Those clips are nice and toasty now. Gotta be careful. So you can see on the close up here, that solder's melted and flowed nicely into those two wires. I pulled them apart before it fully cooled. Pull it off here. You can see the tinning. See how the solder tinned through there really nicely. Once these cool, you're going to have to pull these really, really hard to get them to come apart. You can see it tinned on that one. And all I did was just overlap the two wires and hit them with a heat gun. I used these on all of my props this year. This was my first year. I used these on all of my props, all of my pigtails, all of my connectors, all my power injection, and I had 0 failures, knock on wood, this year. Obviously, I'll reinspect all my props before I set everything out next year, make sure they're all good. But these do your heat shrink, your solder, and your sealing all in one smooth step. Now, I did take everything a step further on a lot of stuff that I was worried about water intrusion, and I used a marine grade heat shrink over the top of these to do a very thorough seal. I used that on most of my extension lines between my controller and my props, and I didn't have any problems with them so far. So just something for all you new guys to take into account. I know all of you veterans out there have seen them and are very familiar with them. But here we go. That's it. Solder seals. You can get them off eBay. You can get them off Amazon, or you can order them straight from AliExpress or any of the other Chinese order sites if you're patient and want to wait a month or so for them to come in. All right. Y'all have a great night. Enjoy talking to you. We'll catch you on the next video.